late afternoon on this Thursday, the 1st of February. Here we are in a new month, and not a whole lot going on other than the fact that I guess Joe Biden has finally spoken to the families of the servicemen who were killed during the drone strike on one of our bases, and he has promised to get even, but he couldn't tell anybody when and where, which is probably smart because we don't want him knowing. But given the amount of time he has let pass on this subject, has given them enough time to move any of their rebels out of the way of major sites that they may want to hit. The slap in the face needs to go to the people who funded this, and we all know now that Iran supplied the weaponry for the Houthis to be shooting at the shipping lanes, as well as these drones that were used to kill our service people. Whether or not it was a logistic mistake on the part of people to think that our own drones were incoming and didn't recognize it, I think that's a poor excuse. But anyway, he's waited this long and given them ample opportunity to move their people out of harm's way, and they know what targets that are available for him to hit. Iran is the one that needs to be hit, and hit hard, financially and in other ways. But he doesn't see it that way. Joe has his different ideas about different things, such as talking to the families of the service people that were killed and telling them the big lie that he tells all over the place all the time, that his son Bo was killed in Iraq. Everyone knows that that's a out-and-out lie. He died of other causes here in the United States at home. Why he continues to propagate that lie, I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't remember. Who knows? But that brings us right back to what's going on at the border. And his pat answer anymore is that he's tried everything he can, but Congress is holding it up. Well, Congress had nothing to do with him in the first day that he sat in office, canceling all of the things that were put in place to slow the illegal migration. And these are not migrants, and these are not asylum seekers. And we know this. And he knows it. With a stroke of a pen, he has the power to end it today, but he refuses to do that and wants to blame it on everything else, Congress, Trump, whatever. But he's the one that signed the pen that canceled all of the fail-safes that were in place when he took office. So what he needs to do is tear those up and do some more executive orders, which he's a great person at, and sign that out. End the flow across this border. That's what needs to be done. Not tell us that he can't do any more than he's already done. He's exhausted every possibility. That's a lie. And we all now know that he's lying about that. He is the one that shut off the oil spigots. He is the one that flew the door of the border wide open and canceled every fail-safe in place to prevent the criminal activity that's taking place now. Mr. Wray, the director of the FBI, has issued warning and now 3 times about the amount of illegal aliens that are in terror cells that have gotten in this country, and it's a matter of time before something really bad happens, and the blood of those people who die will be on Biden's hands. That, hands down, is a fact. Why he continues to lie to the American public, why he continues to lie to the people that are backing him to run for office again. And the fake polls came out today putting him 6 and 7 points in front of Trump, and blah, blah, blah. This is not the truth. And if it should turn out to be true, I think that we're in serious trouble if that many people think that he should be reelected after his dismal performance on the job for the last 4 years. It's incredible what's going on here. And no one's watching this door. We have a carnival atmosphere in the entire cabinet. And now you've got Lloyd Austin, who's back on the job, issuing an apology because, he should have told the president that, but he was trying to cover it up, and he thought it was a personal thing, blah, blah, blah. But he claims that there was never a moment when he wasn't in charge. Well, that's an out-and-out lie in itself, because if you go under general anesthesia, you're not capable of doing your job at that particular point in time, which means that the next person down, your assistant or vice chair, need to be present and accounted for, not in vacationing in Puerto Rico. Which brings me back to the president in his 140 days of vacation, didn't have the time to go out to Palestine, Ohio, after the train wreck that poisoned half the population there and their water sources, and people had to leave homes abandoned because they couldn't live in them anymore. And then a year later, because he's running for office again, he's decided to make a stop out and talk to these people. And Karine sits up there as a press secretary and tells everybody, well, he was waiting until the situation was corrected so he could go out. Well, that's not a good case to make. But again, there's another carnival act. This administration has been a total failure. It continues to be a total failure in every aspect of what's going wrong, not only just in this country, but his foreign policy, which he touted as being an expert in, has backfired. He's opened fronts that we don't need to be in. And now this border bill that's being held up in the Senate, no one knows what's in it. They're not making clear what's in it, except for the fact that there is no wall. Nothing about the border wall mentioned in it. But you can bet your boots that there's a ton of money in there for Israel, and there's a ton of money in there for the thieves in Ukraine that he has to fund. What do they have on this man that he is bending over backwards to send our tax dollars to protect someone else's borders when we can't protect our own? The northern border is now compromised. There's no one watching it. Our supply chains are, again, in jeopardy because now we have an excuse for the administration to use that, well, the Red Sea's closed because of the Houthi rebels and we can't get product to the world and to us. What products do we rely on Ukraine to get? What products do we rely on the Middle East to give us? Besides oil. And that is going right back to when he closed the taps off on the first day of his executive office signings. We're an oil-rich country, but you'd never know it because we're out begging Saudi Arabia and these clowns over there to supply our oil. All while they look at us, they look at this administration, And if you think Iran and China are not watching the goings-on in this country under this administration, you're sadly mistaken, because they are. They're watching, and they're laughing. And it's not going to be good for us now or in the near future. Which brings me to be talking about the banking situation in this country. What's going on there? Why are banking fees rising? Banks aren't making the money they used to make. They're facing a lot of repossessions on homes, automobiles, and the like. The day-to-day working stiff in this country is supporting programs that we have no business supporting, while they have a hard time buying a steak, vegetables, and staples to keep their families healthy and alive. But yet we have billions to pour into Zelensky's toy box. Come on, as Joe would say. Come on, man. This guy can no longer be trusted. And the fact that he and his entire party of Democrats are hell-bent on destroying one man that's running against them is election interference. I don't care how you paint it or how you look at it. Election interference is taking place by, number one, legacy media is involved in it. Number two, the Biden administration in its entirety is hell-bent on tilting the election cycle. Where else can you find a person running for a high office on the pretense of destroying his opponent to get there? As I told you yesterday, I'm severely worried that the fix is already in. I think they know what they're going to do and how to do it. Hell, they've had enough practice. Nothing good can come of tearing down another individual and accusing them of things that they did not do, while you stand there bold-faced lying to your constituents and the citizens that you're sworn to protect about everything. It's craziness. We're sliding backwards on a daily basis, and no one is applying the brakes. It's a travesty. In other news, not a whole lot going on today. I guess there's some suits against the NCAA that are taking place in Tennessee here. Not sure what the end result of that is, but I guess this licensing of facial rights and recognition of players, or the misuse of it. But I'm not up on sports all that much, but I guess all the rage right now is how Taylor Swift is going to get to the Super Bowl game. And how much support is she going to throw behind Joe Biden that she loves so much? Yeah, that's real important when you have half the world trying to go to war with each other, and we're on the precipice of World War III ourselves. But let's worry about Taylor Swift getting to the Super Bowl to be with her boyfriend. Like that's really news. But it's all the rage right now. It's trending. Trending like the hearings yesterday with Zuckerberg. Huh. What was that about? I know what they're telling you it is about, but a bunch of people yelling at Mark Zuckerberg because he owns these things isn't going to change a blessed thing. It's up to us to police what our children are looking at and doing and saying on social media. I told you this yesterday. And if they're not compliant with what your thoughts are on social media, take the phone away. Take the iPad away. There are checks and balances on these things, but it's required and dependent on you to do that. Mark Zuckerberg's not going to come into your home and chastise your daughter for bullying another kid using Instagram. It's not what it was designed for. AI, with these programs now, you can make pictures through AI showing yourself having lunch with Joe Biden, Donald Trump, anybody you want to put in. It gets done for you. How safe is that? It's coming to the fact where when you see a picture, you have to question it. And if you don't see it with your own eyes, it may not be true. But these things are happening. And our children are involved in it because they understand this technology better than we do. TikTok. Every person who has signed up and using this to post the funny videos that everybody is so into is a direct link to communist China getting every bit of information on that device that you signed up for TikTok on. Every device you use TikTok on, they have every bit of background information that's on that. It's run by the Chinese government. What is wrong with you people that you would let that happen? Which brings us to the border. They found out now, it was announced today, I think I heard it on Sean Hannity, that over 120,000 communist Chinese have breached our border and are in this country illegally. Where in the world can you go border to border and just slide in with no documentation and place yourself, here's the FBI director, Ray, said just yesterday, and not that long ago again, that there's a threat to our infrastructure here that is being readied to collapse this country. And we're letting the people that are trained to do it through our southern and now northern border to make sure they're in place when the signal goes out to make it happen. No one's watching the store. If the FBI director is telling you this, there must be some intelligence factor that has told them that this is the deal. How do you let 120,000 of people into this country not knowing who, what, where, and when they are ever going to show up for a court date? They have no intention of coming to court 6 years from the day they breach the border. These people are refugees. They're not migrants. And they're certainly not asylum seekers because they're afraid of their life in their own countries. That's a lie, and they've been told to say those exact words to the border agent that's processing them. We have border agents that can no longer protect our border because they're processing people in. How many more people have to tell you all this before you wake up and complain to someone about it? Texas has slowed their breaches down, and our government is down there fighting with them to reopen it. Do you see these things? It's there for you to look at. But the media will tell you, oh, everything is fine. The economy, oh, Bidenomics is working. The Fed comes out yesterday and said there will not be a reduction in rates. Not until they relook at it again in the spring or in the fall. Which means what? It means that things are going to continue along the same line they are now. Banks are in trouble. Repossessions of automobiles are up 27%. Foreclosures, they're claiming, are going to be astronomical starting in the West Coast and moving east. And he thinks Bidenomics is working. There's a leak out of the White House today that was reported that this person said, having worked with him in the White House, that his cognitive decline is getting worse. And we're letting this man make a decision on who to bomb, when to bomb, and where to bomb, and what else. Right now, this country, like an asylum that it's becoming for everybody that wants to walk through the border, is a nut house. And the nuts are running the asylum. They want to paint the other side bad. This side wants to paint that side bad. And nothing is being accomplished. There are no solutions coming out of a sitting Congress and a sitting Senate, and certainly no solutions coming out of this cabinet or this presidency. Let's wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that we, the people, employ them to do a job which they are failing miserably at. And if you fail miserably at your job, guess where you're working tomorrow? The unemployment line. With the exception of the fact that the unemployment line doesn't have any money any longer. It's almost funny, isn't it? But it's not. Anyway, I'm looking forward to a good weekend, and hopefully we'll get some better news to come to you with tomorrow. It's not looking real good with the situation now. You look at just a couple of days ago where 2 police officers were pummeled and hurt in New York City by migrants, and were let go the same day with no bail. And when they left the court, there's film of this. You can go see it. And they're doing this going out of the courthouse. Are these the kind of people that we want to import into this country that will brutally beat police officers in the street? That's what we're letting in this country. Take a look. Turn on mainstream media is running it on a daily basis. These police officers getting walloped. Let me tell you something. When I grew up, you were groomed to respect the policeman on the corner. And back in those days, we had beat policemen that were on every neighborhood. And if you stepped out of your neighborhood and were in another one and the policeman saw you, he'd stop you and say, "What are you doing here? Go home, Johnny, you don't belong here." That's where we need to go back to. I grew up in New York where we had communities, we had neighborhoods, and you belonged to your neighborhood. You had your own greengrocers, you had your own butcher shops and things of that nature. I'm not saying that that's got to happen again because nobody wants to be in business in this country anymore because you can't afford to be. But now you have these migrants that come in with a chip on their shoulder while they're residents in the Roosevelt Hotel, free of charge. And they have the audacity to talk back to a policeman, never mind beat him. I wouldn't blame a NYPD officer if they said, what's the sense in going to work tomorrow? Seriously. I wouldn't want that job. I have relatives that were policemen in New York. I think they're all retired now. Thank God. We never thought we'd see the day that you would mistreat or even talk back to a policeman other than to explain yourself. No respect anymore. When the respect went out the window, and here's these people that barely speak English that are all over the streets causing havoc and stealing. And we are letting more in. What happened? Someone give me in the comments an explanation for this, and I'll listen. We're turning our major cities into third world type countries. And for God's sake, most of them are blue states, so what's wrong with the Democratic voting population that they would come out with poll numbers today putting Biden up in some cases? Come on. This can't be right. As I've said many times, I'm no dyed-in-the-wool fan of Donald Trump. But he's the lesser of two evils right now. Hands down. We're in trouble if something happens to Biden because we have to put up with Kamala Harris. Speaking of carnival acts. There you go. Anyway, I'll be back at you tomorrow with a little bit more length of discussion about what's taken place today. I've had a lot on my plate today, so I didn't get to really dive into all of the nuance of the news today, but I'm sure tonight I will study up and we'll be back to you tomorrow with more insightful ideas and news. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful dinner this evening. Enjoy your family. Shut off the cell phones. Watch a movie together. And enjoy life while you can. So with that, I'm going to trip on out of here. See ya. Bye.